The scratching at my front lock dragged me out of sleep at exactly 3 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't a knock. It was metal grinding against metal. Someone jamming a key into my deadbolt and twisted it the wrong way again and again, like they had no idea how a key even worked. Then came the kick. A heavy boot slammed square into the frame, hard enough to rattle the picture hanging above the entryway. Her voice followed, sharp and entitled, cutting through the door like she already owned the place. "Open this door. This is the HOA. I have a master key." I got out of bed barefoot and moved the peephole. Karen Breener stood there in a pink bathrobe, a clipboard tucked under her arm, around her neck, hanging from a black lanyard like a badge at some small-town parade, was a brass key. She held it like it gave her authority over reality itself. She had no idea the door she just kicked belonged to the man who had trained half the deputies in this county. Both dogs were already standing in the hallway. Caesar stayed low and silent, ears pinned back. Bear let out a slow, deep rumble from his chest, the kind he didn't waste on raccoons. After 22 years working with dogs, I knew one thing for certain. When those two stood like that, whoever was on the other side of my door was a neighbor. I opened the camera app on my phone and tapped the doorbell feed, making sure it was recording audio, belt and suspenders. I'd worked enough cases to know the difference between footage that wins and footage that almost wins. Then I unlocked the door, but left the chain on. It opened 6 inches. The dogs filled the gap. Before opening it, I'd given them one command: hold. Not engage, not guard, just hold. It was a command I used when I wanted a suspect to understand exactly what stood in front of them, without giving them a reason to file a complaint. Caesar settled at my left knee, Bear at my right. Both stared at her through the gap, like she was the most interesting thing they'd seen all week. Karen's face changed for exactly 1 second. I'd seen that look 100 times in my career, the moment reality catches up with the story someone has been telling themselves. The mouth opened just slightly. The eyes flicked to the dogs, then to the vest hanging behind me. K9 units stitched across both. Then to me. The brain does the math. And then she shoved the math aside and put her HOA face back on. "Your animals are in violation," she said. "I have the right to inspect this property. Step aside." I kept my voice flat, the same tone I use on traffic stops. No edge, no volume. Just words. "Step off this porch, Mrs. Breener, or I am calling 911. "I'm calling 911, she snapped. "I'm the HOA president. You're the one in violation. You're trespassing on community standards." I almost asked her what community standards I was trespassing on, standing inside my own lock house at 3 o'clock in the morning with 2 retired police dogs at my feet. But I didn't. I'd learned a long time ago that the more a bully talks on tape, the less they get to say in court. She raised the brass key again like she might try it one more time. I let her. I wanted it on camera. But she hesitated, thought better of it, and stepped back off the porch. She jabbed a finger through the gap. "I will be back in the morning with animal control and a locksmith. And next time, that door comes off the hinges." Then she turned and walked down my front path in that pink bathrobe, the brass key swinging from her neck, the clipboard tucked under her arm like she just won something. I closed the door, locked it. Then I sat down on the entry bench and looked at my dogs. Caesar tilted his head. Bear sneezed. I checked the camera app. The whole thing had recorded. The scratching, the kick, the voice, the key, the threat. Timestamp burned into the corner. 3 minutes and 36 seconds of the cleanest evidence I'd handled in 4 years of retirement. I should have been angry. I wasn't. Not yet. I was something quieter. The thing you become when you've been a cop long enough to recognize the exact moment a problem stops being a problem and starts being a gift. I'd spent 8 months absorbing every petty move this woman made. Yellow notes, bogus fines, 3 separate animal control visits, a steady stream of complaints. I paid the fines, smiled at inspectors, kept my mouth shut about who I was and what I knew, because the moment you tell a bully who you really are, they stop giving you useful evidence. She had just handed me 3 minutes of it on a brass platter. The siren started about 4 minutes later. Someone on the street must have heard the kick, probably Mrs. Patel across the way. She didn't sleep much since her husband passed. By the time the patrol cars arrived, Karen Breener was gone, but she left something behind. I opened the door again. The porch was empty. The walkway was empty. The street held only 2 cruisers rolling in with their lights low. And jammed awkwardly in my deadbolt was the brass key. She'd left it behind when she ran. By sunrise, she had already filed a complaint against me in the HOA portal. I read it standing in my kitchen, the dogs at my feet, sunlight filtering through the blinds, disturbing the peace, aggressive animals, refusing entry to an HOA officer. She had written it before she even made a home. She had no idea she had just handed me the only evidence I would ever need. But to understand why any of this mattered, you have to go back 8 months. I moved into Whispering Pines in late September. 96 homes arranged in a quiet grid of cul-de-sacs, mature trees, a clubhouse no one used, and a pool that closed at sundown, because someone on the board had decided that was when fun ended. I had retired from the county sheriff's department 4 years earlier after 22 years, the last 11 running the K9 unit. I bought the house for one reason: a workshop in the garage, 2 old partners on the couch, and silence. I got the workshop. I got the dogs. The silence lasted 8 days. The first yellow note appeared on a Tuesday morning. Lawn height violation. Fine, $75. I went outside with a ruler. The tallest blade measured 2 3/4 inches. I paid the fine anyway. Police work teaches you something about bullies. They start small to see if you'll push back. I wasn't going to push back on a measurement. 3 weeks later came another note. Vehicle parked facing the wrong direction in the driveway. The truck hadn't moved. Suddenly it was a violation. Another fine. I paid it. I had a rule from my old job: never give a bully early leverage. Let them feel powerful. Let them get sloppy. The first time I saw Karen Breener in person, she was standing in my driveway, taking pictures of my house. She didn't introduce herself. She didn't need to. The clipboard, the lanyard, the posture, it all said everything. She announced her name like a judge delivering a ruling, then told me, as if it had already been decided, that my dogs were going to be a problem. I told her what they were: retired police canines, certified, registered. I didn't mention the federal protections. Not yet. She wrote something down. 2 days later, animal control showed up. Anonymous complaint. Dangerous animals. The officer met Caesar, reviewed the paperwork, met Bear, and apologized for wasting my time. A week later, another complaint. Same officer, same apology. By the 4th visit, he looked embarrassed. The complaints kept coming. Weekly, sometimes twice a week. Same handwriting, same pattern. By month 3, I stopped reacting to the petty details. I started watching the pattern instead. Karen Breener had been HOA president for 7 years. Public records showed 432 fines issued, 23 liens filed. Nearly 1 in 4 homes had been threatened with foreclosure. Fence colors, mailbox finishes, minor details turned into leverage. 3 families had already left within a year of crossing her. 2 had liens that didn't look remotely legal. Then there was her husband, Roy Breener, the original developer, still holding a controlling vote on the board. He was the money, she was enforcement. And the rest of the board? Neighbors too afraid to lose their homes. That's how she lasted 7 years. And then there was the master key. I first heard about it from Frank, my neighbor 2 houses down. He showed up one Saturday with a 6-pack and left me with everything he wished someone had told him when he moved in. Karen claimed she had a master key to every house. Emergency inspections, she said. She had even let herself into someone's home once while they were out of town. No one had ever questioned it. No one had read the bylaws. So I did. 204 pages, straight from the county recorder. There was no master key clause, no inspection authority, no legal right to enter a home, period. It was all a story, one nobody had bothered to check. So I kept quiet, because the moment she knew I knew, she'd stop making mistakes. And I needed her to keep making them.